Returning to the canvassing of students in the affected areas and the receipt of personal information. I undertook to review this practice from several perspectives. My position remains that we have the authority to do this. However, I have also examined the context of this interaction with students, their perception, and the feelings expressed by them. I also contacted and met with the Board of Directors of Emerging Leaders and student representatives from Western University and Fanshawe College. I had an opportunity to articulate the issues that police face in responding to community requests to limit rowdy and illegal behavior. It was important to place the police intervention strategies in light of the overall neighborhood experiences. It must never be forgotten that I have the statutory obligation to provide the citizens of London with a safe and secure environment, and I cannot and will not abdicate that responsibility. I must be responsive to situations that will erode a community's sense of well-being and the lawful entitlement to the use of their property. However, as I examined the issue of canvassing specific neighborhoods, and more specifically requesting occupant information, I found myself asking the question, is there a better way to manage the issues we collectively face each and every fall? The answer has to be a resounding yes. I have found agreement in many sectors of our community, including those individuals I have met with this week. I also recognize that relationships are critical, and I do value what students bring to our community. It is very clear to me as Chief of Police that we have evolved as a community to the extent that the perception, in many respects the reality, is one of a police-centric approach, relying heavily on enforcement as the mechanism to control behavior. This must change, and a community-wide engagement strategy needs to be established. Relationships on many levels need to be reestablished, nurtured, and in some instances repaired. To move forward, we must have a fuller, more effective, positive engagement strategy with students. As Chief, I recognize that community engagement begins with listening to our stakeholders on many levels, and I have done so over the last number of days. Our police officers have worked very hard to ensure public safety during the beginning of the school year and have been successful in achieving this. Our community-oriented response unit has been at the forefront of brokering positive relationships, educating, and mediating community issues. I want to move forward, and the way to do this is to recognize the issues that have been raised and immediately address them. I have directed that our first response, in an effort to refocus our collective community efforts, is to immediately cease the practice of requesting personal information during canvasses in student-occupied neighborhoods, as it has been perceived as an invasion of privacy. All personal information gathered during our canvassing strategy will be purged from our records, and that is ongoing as we speak. It must be understood that information collected in the course of an investigation or laying of charges is subject to retention by the London Police Service. The purging of police records is specific to the personal information collected during the neighborhood canvasses. The next steps are critical. We cannot continue to be the sole arbiters of behavior, nor can we rely specifically on a zero-tolerance enforcement strategy, as we have observed that certain publicly disrupting behaviors have continued and in some areas increased. This is not sustainable and has not proven to be an effective model of engagement or a preferred course of action. It will change nothing and only serve to further polarize our stakeholders. I have reached out to Town and Gown Chair, Councillor Mount Brown, and a motion was passed at this week's council meeting to hold a public participation meeting to receive input from all interested parties to review current practices dealing with student conduct. I would further submit that a review of current practices be all-encompassing and not solely focused on enforcement and the London Police Service. Engagement is a responsibility and obligation for all involved stakeholders if we want to develop the best strategy to address our community issues. Notwithstanding Council's motion, I am continuing to meet with key partners, and tomorrow I will be meeting with Western University officials. I want to thank Western Student Council and the Fanshawe Student Union for their insight and suggestions on how we move forward. Emerging Leaders is an engaging, bright group of Londoners whose members are clearly focused on positive growth, and I appreciate the opportunity to provide my perspective, knowing that they are committed to being a part of this process. As Chief, I am accountable for the operations of the London Police Service. I am accountable to our community. Our community is a mosaic of persons, opinions, and beliefs. There is always sensitivity around the delivery of police services, a delivery model that is complicated on many levels. It is my direct responsibility to listen, to engage, and to provide levels of service that will meet with community expectations. This often becomes a balancing act that does not necessarily meet with the approval of all our stakeholders. The evolution of Project Learn has brought us all to a point where we must collectively step back and create a better way forward. I understand the frustration and perceptions concerning a zero-tolerance approach as a result of my interactions with student leaders and others. This week's frank and engaging discussions have provided the opportunity to put current police practices into an historical context in terms of the development of a heightened police presence at the beginning of the school year. The question as to whether students who are new to London or just entering university or college should be subject to an enforcement approach that is historically based on conduct has been raised and discussed. This is a complicated question when considering the perspectives of neighborhoods affected by off-campus housing and the complaints from neighborhood associations and businesses located in the core and Richmond Street areas. In addition, it is recognized that effective planning must include consideration of historical events. My commitment is to refocus our efforts, to strengthen our educational and proactive measures, and to work cooperatively with our student associations and university and college administrations to reduce the behaviors that require a specific enforcement response. Having said this, I will not ignore conduct that disturbs the rights of those who reside in or close to off-campus student housing. We respond to calls for service. We respond to community complaints, and we maintain community safety and security. This is our mandate. As I have made a commitment moving forward, I am looking for the same from students and others to acknowledge the need to live in respectful coexistence with their neighbors, reducing the need for ongoing police intervention. I welcome the opportunity for full community engagement with the intent to focus our collective efforts towards enhancing positive relationships between police, students, neighbors, and the wider community that we serve.